Welcome back. We're reading the Bible with Loke. Oh man, I had a whole plan. I'm gonna get home, do this and do this, but I'm gonna do that next. Alright, so reading the Bible with Loke. We stopped where they hung old boy on the gallows. Yeah, they made Mordecai the man. Little buddy rode through the city. Alright, let's go to the next chapter. Is there Esther 9? Yeah. Esther 9. Now in the 12th month, on the 13th day, when the king's command and edict were about to be executed, on the very day when the enemies of the Jews had hoped to gain power over them, it happened the other way around, so that the Jews themselves gained power over those who hated them. The Jews assembled in their cities throughout the provinces of King Xerxes to apprehend those who wanted to do them harm. No one could stand before them, for the fear of them had fallen on all peoples. Even all the officials of the provinces and the chief rulers and the governors and those who attended the king's business supported the Jews because of the fear of Mordecai, and his power had fallen on them. For Mordecai was great and respected in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all the provinces. For the man Mordecai became greater and greater, so the Jews struck all their enemies with the sword, killing them, destroying them, and did what they pleased to those who hated them. At the citadel in Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men, and Parshandra, Dalphon, Asapha, Aspatha, Portha, Adelia, Aridata, Parmashta, Arisai, Arida, and Vaista. The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hamaduya, but they did not lay hands on their plunder. Yeah, that's right, he had all of them boys. Yeah, he was bragging about them. On that day, the number of those who were killed at the citadel in Susa was reported to the king. The king said to Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men and 10 sons of Haman at the citadel in Susa. What then have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now, what is your petition? It shall be granted to you. What is your further request? It shall also be done." Esther replied, "If it pleases the king." See, she's still on that. She's still on that. "If it pleases the king, let it be granted to the Jews who are in Susa tomorrow to act tomorrow also in accordance with the decree of today. And let the 10 sons be hanged on the gallows." Gangster. That's gangster. Yeah, put them dudes up there too. Alright. The Jews who were in Susa also gathered together on the 14th day of the month of Adar and killed 300 men in Susa, but they did not lay hands on their plunder. Now the rest of the Jews who were in the king's provinces assembled to defend their lives and rid themselves. That's real slow. That's real slow. That drive by is real slow. It's a neighborhood street, but that's real slow, man. Ain't got no speed bumps. Now the rest of the Jews who were in the king's provinces assembled to defend their lives and rid themselves of their enemies, and killed 75,000 of those who hated them. But they did not lay hands on their plunder. This was done on the 13th month of Adar, and the 14th day they rested. They made it a day of feasting and rejoicing. So what's that, on the second Sundays? But the Jews who were in Susa assembled on the 13th, and on the 14th of the same month. On the 15th day they rested and made it a day of feasting and rejoicing. Therefore the Jews of the villages who were living in rural towns make the 14th of the month of Adar for rejoicing, feasting, and sending choice portions of food to one another. I feel like there's some significance there. I'm not sure why it's different in rural areas. Now Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews who live in all the provinces of King. That's still Xerxes, because that looks different. Both near and far, obliging them to celebrate the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day of the month, same annually. Because on those days the Jews rid themselves of their enemies, and as the month which was turned for them from grief to joy and from mourning into a holiday, that they should make them days of feasting and rejoicing and sending choice portions of food to one another and gifts to the poor. So the Jews undertook what they had started to do and what Mordecai had written to them. For Haman, the enemy of all Jews, plotted against them to destroy them. That's crazy, and it all started because Mordecai and Baal had cast pur, that is, the lot, to find the right time to disturb and destroy them. But when it came down before the king, he commanded in writing that Haman's wicked scheme, which he had devised against the Jews, was to return on his own head. Therefore they called these days Purim after the name Pur-lot. And because of all the instructions in this letter and what they have faced in this regard and what had happened to them, the Jews established and made it a custom for themselves and for their descendants and for all who joined them, so that they would not fail to celebrate these 2 days that it was written, and at the appointed time annually. So these days were to be remembered and celebrated throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city. And these days of Purim were not to cease from among the Jews, nor their memory fade from their descendants. Then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, with Mordecai the Jew, wrote with full power and authority to confirm this letter about Purim, the second letter. He sent letters to all the Jews, 127 provinces of the kingdom of King Xerxes, in words of peace and truth, to establish these days of Purim at their appointed times, just as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had established for them. And as they had established for themselves and for the descendants with instructions, their times of fasting and their lamentations, expressions of needing help. The command of Esther established these customs for Purim, and it was written in the book of the Royal Archives. I'm going to stop right there. Thanks for reading the Bible with Logue. I am going to try to watch, because there's a film out. Somebody made a film, which I could see that. Like, I would totally bring a film and kind of bring a film to life and kind of use these words and kind of dramatize it up a little bit. I feel like it's a dope story. But yeah, there is a movie out. I forgot when it was. I think it's 1970, 1990. I'm going to check it out. And, because this would be, I read it a couple times now. So, but anyway, reading the Bible alone, yep, I'm going to do that now. Until next time.